The story began with a 10-year-old kid who witnessed living as a prince and also with heroes in the paradise of heroes, but now has the opportunity to go into the actual world and get his revenge. Hercules, who was known as a survival specialist, decided to help Davy with his plan for revenge by training him. Davy, with great joy and a little sadness, bid goodbye to Hercules and his other colleagues, with whom they lived together in the paradise of heroes. They asked him not to forget them, while he hoped he would never get to see them again. In the next scene, we see that Davy is back alive. He has been in a coma for a very long period of time. He happens to be the first son of an unextraordinary king and a prince of a small kingdom called the Ron Kingdom, which is located in the eastern part of the Thionese continent. Wow, that sounds familiar. He was popularly known as Davy Al Ron, and he had a good life. What do you expect? Davy was a prince after all. Though he was always indoors, he had all the luxuries. Davy always believed happiness would last forever, so he was not always particular about his position as a prince. Davy is happy. He's awake, but he feels sad that the only person who seems to care for him and check up on him is a single maid. Davy then realized he had been in a coma for over 6 years after being shot with an arrow in the back. Davy promised himself to be a better person than he was before, but first he must recover well. Davy tried to use his magic to heal himself, but was surprised it did not work. He tried countless times but still got the same answer, so he concluded he has to wait for his body to heal itself before he can use his powers again. Davy did not give up, but rather he continued to try until suddenly his power burst out and he healed himself. And with that he acquired another power known as the Holy Power. Davy promised to train well and get all his remaining powers back in no time. Davy was happy to be back alive as he jumped and shouted around his room. The royal doctor was amazed at how Davy's healing was so fast, as it looked strange. After a while, a lady came into the room with her 2 sons. Well, she's not just an ordinary lady, she's the current queen. She was the one who poisoned Davy's mother. Her name is Linus Buried, and it was very obvious that Linus and her 2 kids were unhappy that Davy was out of a coma. Linus asked Davy if he saw the person who shot the arrow at him. Davy said no and explained that the arrow came out of nowhere. Davy asked if the person had been captured, but to his ultimate surprise, he was told the case has been closed and no investigation is being conducted again. The doctor asked them to give Davy a meal that was easy on his stomach as he left the room, and Davy was eager to see what his first meal would taste like. Davy is happy with how fast he has been healing, and though it's been 15 days since he last used his healing power, Davy now understands the purpose of all the training he had to undergo in the paradise of heroes, as it has helped him heal himself. Davy was happy using his magic, even though the more he used it, the faster his digestion became, so that meant he would eat more. But that was no problem. After all, he is a prince. The situation at the palace has started to deteriorate. Amy, his servant, is taking care of the palace alone, and while they are supposed to be getting 1,000 pieces of gold per month for maintenance, they are getting less than 100, and on top of all that, Amy has only been paid 1/3 of her salary. Davy feels this is an embezzlement and told Amy to take her full salary from now onward. He also promised to treat her well since she had been good to him since he came back from coma. Amy was shocked and short of words. Davy then prepared to go out to reveal the budget to the budget department. As his father has refused to come and see him since he awoke, Davies is not surprised by his father's attitude because he did nothing when Davy's mother was poisoned, so for Davy, his father isn't part of this family anymore. Once they arrived at the budget department, Davy demanded 500 gold coins worth, but the manager made an excuse. He told them that the claiming of budget is not done here. Davy began to suspect that the manager would accuse someone else, and at the end it would all be a waste of time, so Davy asked Amy that they leave, and he told her to bring him a sword. She looked shocked after hearing sword, but Davy tells her not to worry, that he was not going to use it on anyone. After some time, Davy returned with an animal. He told Amy to bring something he can butcher with, but she refused, telling him she couldn't let the blood of an animal touch his hands and that he might hurt himself. Davy couldn't hold back his laughter, and he continued with what he was doing. Davy thought to himself that Queen Linus will use all the power she has to stop him. But as a student of Hercules, the master of survival, he will find a way to survive. In the next scene, we see that Amy was with a lady, and Amy happens to be an informant for the Dark Moon. The Dark Moon is a guild of assassins that resides in the capital city of Round. Amy told the Lady Davy that she was acting a bit differently from how she remembered he used to act. Amy takes precautions against Davy. In any case, she said, Davy lives within her palms. Davy can't stop thinking about Paradise of Heroes. He remembers an experiment that his older sisters made him do, an experiment he never wanted to do again in his life, but he will have to do it again now. Amy comes to him and asks him if he plans to work in the garden today too. Davy is now getting closer to Amy these days, though she still refuses some things. She lets him do whatever he wants, unlike in the beginning when she was always worried. In the forest, Davy began his training with a technique called mana breathing. The breathing technique was invented by an ancient hero that uses the mana freely available in the atmosphere. It's a very powerful technique that must remain a secret, and Davy had no intention of showing it to anyone. Davy stopped his training as he noticed he was being watched by someone, and he thought to himself that this must be what the Queen is doing. While Davy was walking away, he thought to himself, it's about time he makes the mana circle. Priests can't use magic, mages can use holy powers, and mages can use necromancy, which neither of them can use, but Davy could wield all three powers together and use them because of his very difficult hero training. But since Davy is wielding the three powers together, he can't create a perfect mana circle because there will be a clash between the necromancy and the holy power, which can probably destroy his heart, so he creates an arrow circle instead. It is a magic circle that goes around his body through his heart without mixing with other powers, but a single mistake while creating the artery circle could lead to death. But Davy did not hesitate and started. Amy was beginning to get worried when Davy wasn't back, and when he finally arrived, he fell into her arms and fell asleep. Davy wakes up the next day and finds Amy right beside him. He is finally happy that he was able to complete his circle and that the three powers now flow in his veins, which allows him to cast spells without incantations. 5 months later, Davy and Amy have been living a quiet life. They now have more than enough food because someone has been leaving meat and vegetables for them in the castle. At first, Davy thought it was a plan by Queen Linus, but he knew there was no way the Queen would leave him perfectly good food without a reason. After a while, people arrived at the castle. They were people sent by the Queen. One of them, who is a priest, told Davy that he is not yet generated and won't be able to use his powers, which of course both bullshit and Davy know. One of the men sent by the Queen even goes after Amy. He punches her in the face and she walks him away. He threatens her. He tells her she has to come by herself that same night and tells her to remember the life of the prince is in the palm of his hand. Amy is in shock. Davy can't explain what is happening to him. He can't say if he is angry, nor does he know the cause of the anger. Davy then remembered what one of his older sisters said to him in the hero's world. He then headed towards Amy and the priest. He first killed the two guides that were with the priest. The priest fell to the ground. Davy then asked Amy what the punishment for blasphemy against the royals is, while Amy answered that it is an immediate execution. Davy wasted no time as he separated the priest's head from the rest of the body. Davy feels it's now time to start his revenge. Do you think Davy will be able to carry out his revenge without going wild? Please leave your answer in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching this video. To get manhwa recaps, subscribe to the channel.